Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. This is a regular council meeting that also contains an informational meeting about the ballot initiatives tomorrow. Called for 6 p.m. We're starting the meeting at 6 o'clock on Monday night, March 2nd, in the council room in the municipal building. And we have present President Kevin Charbonneau. Last meeting we're going to get to say that. Council members John Manette, Andrew Touchette, Carter Finnegan, Clerk Treasurer Jim Johnson, our Financial and Office Administrator Carrie Schultz is in the room, Tom Bernier, Director of Public Works, is in the room. I don't think I'm missing any other city staff. So I'm just going to ask if there are additions, deletions to the agenda tonight. Carter? No. Andrew?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Okay, Jim?
No.
Okay, I have one, which is that Representative Woody Page is in the room and has offered to give us an update on what's going on right now in Montpelier, which I think would be good for all of us to hear about. So with council's permission, I'm going to add that as item number 4. We'll do it immediately after the consent agenda. Okay? I have a motion, second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. It's weird. We keep getting, oh no, that one's real. Yeah. So, it's great to have a more full room than usual tonight. Thanks for coming, everybody. Just so you all know, the way we normally handle this is if you have a comment to make, we will recognize you. You are welcome to stand, introduce yourself and where you're from, and then address the council. Okay, we try to avoid crosstalk back and forth between members of the community. So you're addressing the council, and the council will ask questions if they have any. And there are 2 sessions tonight in particular where, well, more than 2 actually. If you want to speak to a particular item on the agenda, you do not have to have signed up in advance. You are welcome to speak. After the council has kind of put the question on the table, or I have, and we've had a chance to see if council wants to speak, then we invite community comment. Then we'll bring it back to the table for any further discussion by the council, and then move on to take action if necessary and move on to the next item. If you have something to speak about that is not on the agenda, our habit is to have folks sign up to speak during the public comment and to write their name along with whatever topic it is they would like to address. And we address that in what is labeled on this agenda, number 8, for public comment. Any questions? Okay. So we have a consent agenda in front of us that has approval of the minutes from the 23rd of February. That was just a week ago. AP warrants from the 20th, the 23rd, and the 27th of February. No PR warrants this week. PR warrants being payroll warrants. And we have 1 permit request from RL Valley. Are there any questions, council members, about the consent agenda? Any questions or concerns about anything on the consent agenda from members of the community? Hearing none, do I have a motion to pass the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
All right, give that to Carter, and John has the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, next item on our agenda is Representative Page. Woody, we don't have a formal way to do this. If you want to stand so that you can kind of address the whole room, why don't you stand over here, okay? Yeah, I'm glad to have you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes about what's going on in Montpelier. I guess the watchword down there is affordability. And in my committee that I'm assigned to, it is Ways and Means. And the Ways and Means Committee is basically trying to find money to pay for all the things that the state provides here in Vermont. My committee has been looking over mainly things related to the education bill, Act 73. You've probably heard it in the news, where looking at perhaps the number of districts that we currently have, it's over 100, and trying to reduce those numbers. Looking at consolidation of schools, looking at transportation issues, and unfortunately, everything is in flux down there right now until the Education Committee actually does something with Act 73. And they're supposed to be creating a map in which to divide up the state with the various districts. And until that happens, the work that we're doing may not go anywhere. So that's primarily one of the things that our committee is doing. Other things that are going on, transportation. There's limited funds this year for paving. We will not be paving as many roads as we have in the past, based upon some of the monetary issues that we're dealing with. And probably with what's going on overseas right now, with probably you'll see an increase in gasoline prices, which may also affect what we do in the future as far as paving. Environment, the Environment Committee, they're looking at preserving certain lands. You've probably heard of the 30 by 30 and 50 by 50 bill that's out there, trying to preserve 30% of our lands by 2030, and then and then 50% of our lands by 2050. What else can I tell you? I'll just go back to education. Property taxes, we know, are rising. The governor has set aside approximately $105 million to keep our property taxes down to, I won't say an affordable level, but a level that we can perhaps live with, because prior to his looking at putting monies towards reducing property taxes, it was going to be suggested around 13%. Now it looks as though it's going to be around maybe 5%. I also heard recently where if the House and the Senate do nothing regarding our education issues, there's a study to see what will happen 3 years from now if we do nothing regarding education. And there's an estimate that something like $450 million will have to be set aside to keep our property rates down to a more affordable level, around 5%. So it's obvious something has to be done. Whether or not our education committee or the Senate will do anything down there, I can't predict that. I know they're working on it, but it doesn't, right now, it currently doesn't look as though we're going to do anything with the education bill. I think that's, oh, and I probably should mention some bills that I have submitted. One had to do with the leachate from the landfill. It was myself and Representative Labor from Morgan put in a bill prohibiting leachate from being discharged into any of the water, into the waters of Lake Memphremagog, the watershed of Lake Memphremagog. I presented that bill to the Environment Committee, and they took testimony, and that's where it sits right now. Another bill that I put in for was to help veterans. There's a great deal of money out there from the VA going towards veterans that may be suffering from ailments that perhaps they didn't realize until after they had been discharged from the military. And your VA is not the easiest thing to navigate as far as filling out, compensation for your ailments that you discover after you've been out for a while. Some of those ailments may be related to the burn pits that, you know, when you get out, you know, a lot of enlisted persons as well as officers, when it comes time for their enlistment to be up, they just want to get out of the military and move on with their lives. And they don't think about some of the things, some of the benefits that are available for them. And once they're out, they may have discovered that they're suffering from some sort of ailment, which might be related to the burn pits, and they find it's difficult to navigate the paperwork to get some of those benefits. So there are a lot of scammers out there, and we've all dealt with some of those people trying to get access to your credit cards and things like that, and it's no different with veterans. You have these scammers that are trying to promise them that they'll help them get the benefits that they desire for a certain compensation for that. And so anyways, this is a consumer protection bill to protect veterans from those types of individuals. The other issue that I put forward before the Transportation Committee was the prohibition of snowmobiles on the BB rail spur. And myself and Representative Labor put forward that. A lot of people use the trail for skiing and hiking and, you know, biking. And anyways, we put that bill forward, and it's in their hands now. I think that's about it. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention is healthcare. A couple of years ago, I think now, we dealt with the Owen-Wyman report, and it got the attention of a lot of people within our community, not just here in Newport, but the surrounding community, about our hospital. And I just want to say that there are still issues with our healthcare system within Vermont. Many of you have probably seen an increase in your health insurance costs, and you may be dealing with that. And our hospitals are also dealing with services, providing services, the cost of those services, trying to consolidate some of those services with other hospitals. So even though we haven't heard much about our hospital recently with the Owen-Wyman report, it is still an issue out there, and you should be careful about that and keep attention towards that issue. So if there aren't any questions, then without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Let's just find out. Council members, do you have questions or comments, things you'd like to say to Woody before we finish up this?
When you said that there's limited funds for transportation around paving, do you have any insight on how that would impact Newport? And I looked at Tom right away, but
I don't.
No.
All I know is that, you know, the funding isn't going to be there like it has been in the past, and there'll have to be decisions made on what roads will be paved. So
Okay.
that's Tom.
So you say paving money, that's paving that the state's gonna do, that's not gonna impact
No,
our
just-
highway
It's
mileage?
state funded.
Okay, yeah.
Great.
Okay, I know there's a budget line item, I'm like, okay, I've gotta revisit that, but okay, great.
Pretty sure it says something about council and select board members having to do the paving themselves.
Oh, okay, because my high business.
Yeah.
Right.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Folks in the community, anybody would like to ask a question of Woody, you're welcome to.
Yes.
You mentioned the incident overseas with the Persians are trying to free themselves from the Iranians. Do we have any coordination with our federal government to secure our border for threats that might affect America coming from
I don't have any information related to that. That's a federal issue. I'm sure that the governor is following the issue very closely, because it's my understanding that the F-35s, the Green Mountain Care, not the Green Mountain Care Board, but the Green Mountain Boys has been deployed overseas, and they're involved in the conflict right now. So I'm sure he's following it very closely, as well as the leadership of our Vermont National Guard. But other than that, I don't have any
If there's
information.
anything I can do within my abilities, I'd like to be of service.
Well, thank you.
I have a question. You
Yes,
didn't
go ahead.
mention this, but is there any more news on, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it, the bill with the fuel and the green, I don't know what it's called, Green New Deal, whatever that is that pretty much dead at this point? This was the one to raise, get rid of the wood burning stoves and all that kind of thing. Is that pretty much dead now?
I have no idea. That would be in the Environment Committee. I haven't heard it recently. Their key thing right now is just preserving lands, but I have not heard anything about, getting rid of wood stoves or things like that. I don't think that'll happen. We're all dependent upon, other types of energy to keep ourselves warm, as particularly at night. For a night like tonight,
Thank you, Woody.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a request from Newport Downtown Development. It's not really a request so much as just an update. Just to give some background on this, Newport Downtown Development over the last couple of years has taken on a couple of different art initiatives. This is a place where I'm wearing my Newport Downtown Development hat, right? Because we've brought these forward to the council for approval each time. One was the project that we started 2.5 years ago with high school students to build out the backlit sculptures that are hanging now on 10 different walls in downtown Newport. That took 2.5 years to get across the finish line, but we finished it last summer. And then last summer, we did a tiny art project that created 6 new pieces of art around town. And actually, Mike Stanley, who's here tonight, was on the committee that managed that project and selected the winners of the art, the call for proposals. This is a new one, and NDD board heard this request a week ago and approved it, and wanted to just make sure that we weren't getting a step ahead of the council. So we've asked Mike Stanley to come tonight and describe what he has in mind. Basically, if everybody seems to be approving, then he would go ahead with NDD, turn in an application to the Vermont Arts Council Animating Infrastructure Grant Program for $15,000 to create 3 pieces of art. So, Mike, is that enough? 3? 1? One.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we got
1
three
piece.
options that we
So
all-
3 options, 1
like
piece.
one of them, yeah.
So, Mike, if you would come forward, why don't you stand up here where council and everybody else in the room can hear you? And we have this thing loaded that you brought tonight. Perfect. Okay.
Thanks for.
And hold on just a second, because Carter's going to share it so folks on screen can see too.
Okay. Let
It
me
should,
just
I think
go.
that should have done it.
Sneaky sneak. Doesn't look like it did. Oh, yes, it did. Okay. And
Okay,
let's see.
go ahead, Mike.
All right. Thanks for taking the time to hear this out. Again, like Rick said, it's a proposal for a grant through the Vermont Arts Council. So again, it wouldn't cost the city of Newport anything if the grant was approved. So a little bit about me. Rick asked me to put a little presentation together, so I won't take up too much of your time. I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from University of South Dakota, a Master's of Fine Art from Iowa State University. My Master's is in integrated visual art and how people integrate art into their daily lives. And so one of the things that I do is I create public art for people. It's something that it's not in a museum. It doesn't require money or day hours to view it. It's something that's out all the time and people can enjoy it at their leisure. I taught at Iowa State University for 5 years, was an associate professor of art at Delta State University in Mississippi for 9 years, and currently I'm working for CCV, teaching art classes in Newport and Winooski. And about my work, what I call it, I sort of label it abstract representation. I try to create interesting pattern pieces. For me, it's all about the pattern, and I put them together to create something recognizable. sculpture that has the energy of abstraction, but the visual payoff of something familiar. And it helps people relate to the work. I get a lot of times as an artist, the first thing people say is, I don't get art. Well, hopefully, it's a nice mix of the two. And what I do is I create hollow form steel sculptures. I use 16 gauge mild steel. It's the same thickness that a car is made out of. To create most of my work, I usually have an internal structure on the interior of it to make it stronger. And then example, so we were talking about putting it over in the park, for Gardner Park. I thought this peninsula would be a really great spot for, one of them is an otter, a river otter. I thought that would look really nice there, but anywhere I thought along the bay here would look really nice for one of these sculptures, just as an idea. But again, it would be yours and you could put it wherever you like. For the next one.
Sorry, there's something.
Frozen.
Freeze?
Yeah, it froze.
Oh, there we go.
Did I
There we
go
go.
too
And then
far?
so Rick and I were talking about doing something representational and sort of a native species to the area. We're thinking river otter, black bear, or a moose. The work that I create is usually between 7 foot and 12 feet in one direction, so rather large. There's one at the very end that I'll show you that is very relevant to like the moose, but again, just playful pattern pieces. It's hard to say exactly what it's going to look like from the onset because, as you'll see, the work sort of changes, but it always ends up looking nice. I'm currently working on 4 sculptures for the city of Johnson. They got a grant through the Vermont Arts Council as well. This was 3 of the sculptures that were used for the proposal. The 4th one sort of changed, and we're working together on that. But this was all things that I worked with the council. They wanted something for renewal, and we landed on sort of flowers and then sort of seedlings growing on one end of the town because of 2 years in a row they were devastated by the floods, and they want some renewal. And so this is what the proposal looks like. Then 2 of the sculptures are done, they're fabricated. That'll be the next picture. And so you get an idea of how they look from the drawing to sort of when they're created. There was a physics issue with the double flower. I had to cut one of them off because it wouldn't support its own weight. So it ended up being a single. The 3rd piece is about 75% fabricated. These will get painted, and again, the surface treatment is entirely up to what people want to see. If it wants to be painted, you'll see a lot of my work. I let it rust because I think that it looks really nice, and especially because it's outdoors, you're never going to keep it from rusting. And so this is a piece this was at the Highland Center for the Arts for a couple of years. It's currently in Johnson at the ballpark. So just an idea of sort of the work, sort of building off of that flower theme that they're doing in Johnson. This is a piece that I made. This got purchased by a boutique hotel in the South, and this just sort of gives you an idea of sort of the patterning and the energy I try to bring to it, but also something recognizable. Again, I've done a lot of different things. Jay Cinco is a guy named John at Go Away Ranch in Vicksburg, Mississippi. He has 5 sons, and all their names start with J. And so we named it Jay Cinco. He just wanted a big giant letter J. And then on the right side, I worked with the Grammy Museum, and that's a sculpture called Bluesman that's out in front of the Grammy Museum in Mississippi. This is a sculpture that's hanging from the ceiling at the Department of Agriculture in Ames, Iowa. It was a national grant that I got for that one. It's a fun project. And then this is sort of an animal form. I wanted to bring this in here to show you. I have some experience doing animal forms. If you go to the next one, it's a little closer up. This is at Jester Park in Des Moines, Iowa. And so this was a life-size elk. And same issue with the elk as the moose is they sort of have to be laying down because the legs are so thin. It's hard for me to make it structural and to make sure that nobody's going to get hurt with it. So the moose would be somewhat similar to this. But you can see sort of the interesting pattern pieces and abstract nature, but it makes something recognizable. That's it. So that's the proposal.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Go ahead. Council members, do you have questions?
No, I'm really excited. I saw this grant go out, and then if you guys go online, they have all of the other previously awarded, and they're so neat around the state. Often they're like mosaics through an alleyway, but there's just some really cool things. I thought, oh, this would be great for Newport, and then lo and behold, it ends up on the council agenda, and I'm really excited. And yeah, all of those creations would be really neat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any folks in the community, questions, Go ahead, Lori.
So with something like the moose or the river otter, what is the situation with people climbing on it, children? How is that?
Yeah, so that one, that elk, there's a sign that says don't climb on it, but they said they can't keep kids off it, you know. And so I build an internal structure, and so it's, you know, it's, the steel is very strong itself, but then with the structure, it's usually not an issue. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Other questions? Go ahead, Adam.
If you're doing votes, I want the otter. It looks the cutest.
I think
You like the
I
otter?
like the otter too, yeah.
Second,
Yeah.
Okay. I don't, council members, unless you feel moved to make a motion, I don't think we need a motion. It's just a,
There is a comment online, I just.
Oh, go ahead.
Mark, I think.
go ahead, Mark.
I think you should put the blues up in the front as it coming into the entranceway as going in through the park. 2 mooses on the side of it.
No, we're up to 2 mooses.
Up to 2.
I think that would be meese, 2 meese.
Two meses. No, and I think you can see like it's a great photo op. They're beautiful to have in the community. You know, it's another thing that can go on a advertisement about Newport. I think there's a lot of benefits.
Actually, let's just make it formal. Somebody want to make a motion saying, let's go for it?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to encourage the submission of a grant proposal.
That might or might not happen.
That might or might not happen. Exactly. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thanks for making the trip from North Troy tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for helping.
Okay, next item on the agenda tonight is the scintillating topic of the certificate of highway mileage. Mr. Bernier, you want to describe to the council and folks in the community here what we're doing?
Sure, so every year we have to sign a new certificate of highway mileage. And what that is our number of lane miles for class 1, 2, and 3, and that's what governs.
Hey, Adam, sorry. You guys need to take it outside, okay? Because we can't hear.
That's what governs, well, the question was that I asked Mr. Page, whether we were gonna lose our state aid to highway. Public Works doesn't bring in much money, and that's about the only monies I bring in, so I'd be a little concerned if I didn't get it. But anyways, this sheet we sign, the council signs every year. There is a couple changes on there, if you didn't notice it. So under the class 3, there was a deduction of 105.6 feet for industrial drive above the Derby Road. And that's because between myself and them, we went up and remeasured it, and it's that much less paved than what originally was thought. The other increase to the class 2 was .078, which is 411.84 feet. Which is a portion of Railroad Square, basically, was never on the map. The Long Bridge was, but the actual off the Long Bridge and that section, that whole section of Railroad Square was not on the map. So will actually be an increase, a little slight increase in the amount of money that we get for lane miles. But again, this is something we do every year, and I have to submit it to them. And
Okay, council members, any questions for Tom?
Thank you for that synopsis, because I looked at this, I was like, okay, I'm going to be listening and learning, because I think this is my first one of these, so, yeah.
Anybody else in the community, questions or comments? Go ahead.
Tom, what is the actual miles in the city of Newport?
it's 37 point something. I don't.
.637, I have it right in front of me.
It should be on
37
that.
What's that?
Yeah, it should be on that sheet.
Yeah, 37.637 miles.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, council members, we're all going to sign this. Why don't we take a motion to approve it? I have a motion to approve the certificate of highway mileage year ending February 10, 2026. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Kevin. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. So I'm going to sign it and send it your way, everybody. I'm going to wait for a moment for that to go down through the line. All set, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I steal that?
Yeah, it's all yours, Tom. Jim, do you need a copy of that back for the record?
Yeah, I would like a copy.
I'll get you.
After you need it.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring it in the morning.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Tom.
don't eat it tonight, Tom, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, council members, item number 6, new number 7 is question and answer time regarding the articles that are on the ballot tomorrow. I'll just note that the polls open tomorrow morning here, downstairs in the gymnasium at 8 a.m., and they'll be open till 7 tomorrow night. Please come and vote. And council members are prepared to answer any questions that folks might like to raise, or comments, anything that people would like to learn more about, express an opinion about, whatever you'd like to do. Go ahead, Laura.
I just want to encourage people.
Oh, sorry, say your name.
Laurie Graham, resident of Newport. And I would just like to encourage voters to vote yes for Article 6. This is something that the Financial Task Force talked a lot about. This is changing the way that Newport collects property taxes. We currently collect our property taxes in November and May. And what happens is that because we have to wait really until November to count on all of our taxes coming in, we end up taking line of credit loans from the bank. And this creates a situation where we're paying back those notes when the tax dollars come in, but we're paying them with interest, which can be quite expensive. And so through the course of this past several months, the realization that if we could change the timing of those payments by making the first payment, I believe it's September 15th, that we would start out the year having funds in the bank a little sooner. I can't say that we wouldn't have to borrow something. I don't know that for certain. That wasn't something we discussed. However, if we're paying for equal installments, it just made a lot of sense to the task force, to the council, that we would have the money to begin to pay our bills using real dollars. So I'm really just encouraging the voters to do this. It is something that we found we actually have to request every time we vote, every March. It has to be on the ballot to do that, and we have not done that in the past, so this is new. And I really am encouraging, one of the things that our residents asked for was that we look into our expenses, and I think this is certainly one way that we can not pay interest payments to the bank.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Other comments or questions? Go ahead, Ann.
Well, I'll ask a few and then I'll stop.
Say who you are, please.
I'm Ann Chiarello, and I'm a resident of Newport, and I always have a lot of questions. But I'll ask a sort of simple one first, because I was just noticing it today. Article 1 says that we're going to elect a constable for 1 year and 3 grand jurors. Is there a constable and 3 grand jurors on the ballot, a sample ballot?
Jim, do you know the answer?
They're all write-in.
I'm sorry?
They're all write-in. It's on the ballot, but there's nobody running.
Good question. I didn't know the answer to that. Other questions?
What
Sure.
does the constable do?
Now, the council normally go around with a delinquent tax collector to collect money. Protection, basically. What it is.
Legal is essentially nothing.
They don't do anything because we have a police force. That's why we don't have anybody running.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Ann. If somebody else wants to chime in, please raise a hand. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, I noticed on the city website that there was this AI conversation that went on between two people about or two fictitious people about the vote on the charter. It talked about a number of things first. And I found it troublesome, and then I thought, I remember somebody mentioning maybe they were gonna put together 3 charters from other towns and they were gonna have an AI integrate them. And then I thought, wow, I don't like this conversation that was fake. And I would particularly hate to have our charter having been made up by AI. And I think about what a computer program can do and how a computer program could be, have a place on it that said, make this more favorable to, make it 5% more favorable to the city. Make it 10%, make the conversation 10% more favorable to the city. You know, just press the button that says that. I didn't like the way the conversation came out, so let's make it that. And so I'd like to know, was artificial intelligence in any way used by Newport to create its charter?
Let's take them one at a time.
Okay.
So the answer to that question is in no way.
Okay.
Let me just speak to that. The charter was created, the proposed charter was created by using Essex Junction as a template and pulling some pieces, primarily actually the bulk of the changes to the Essex Junction version are from our current charter and our current practice. So that was the major change. And then there were a few changes from St. Albans and Montpelier that we adopted in the original version, which I'm not even quite sure how you would identify anymore after all of the changes we went through during the editing.
Okay. And did we establish whether or not any of those towns, including Essex Junction, which you said was sort of the primary template, had used AI to make their template?
No, we used versions that had been approved by the state and used them as templates to pull from for the version that we were trying to create.
But we don't know whether or not Essex Junction used AI to create its template.
I have no judgment about that whatsoever.
Okay. And 2, the conversation, I'm really opposed. I didn't realize it the first time it happened, what it was and the full extent of it. But I am really opposed to having AI conversations on our city website. I don't know how much approval the whole council gave to it, but I would rather have identified people speaking on behalf of something as opposed to, I don't know who created this AI conversation. I don't know what parameters he put in or she put in to make the conversation. I think the state right now is probably even talking about what AI's place is in all of this. And so I would ask you not to use it in the future. I would like to know who did it and what parameters and what that program looks like so that I know what that conversation means. I mean, when it says
Okay, I got the question. Let me answer it.
Sure.
So we did it the same way we did it last summer in preparation for the August election. We took documents that the council had approved and fed them into an AI software system and asked the software system to create a podcast that summarized the content of those documents. So in this instance, the documents, the primary documents were the letter from the mayor that's in the annual report, the council's memo regarding the charter, the proposed charter, and the FAQ that the council approved regarding the budget. Those were, and then there was the budget itself was also available in that process. But the 3 documents that drove the content were those 3 documents. That was done by a volunteer in the community who did it at my request. I shared it with each of the council members and asked individually if each of them were felt it was an appropriate representation of the content in those 3 documents, and everyone agreed that it was appropriate. And then we labeled it that way on the website. Having said all of that, I can appreciate why you would raise a concern. I think all of us, I certainly am among those, who's trying to figure out what appropriate use of this technology that's emerging is. The primary value in it, from my perspective, is that for people who don't take in information through written word, it can, in my judgment, it can help them to try and make sense of something, hopefully to take them deeper into the document and to understand it better. But it's an open question that's worth considering whether or not we should be using the tool in this way.
And where is the tool, on whose program, I'm sorry, on whose computer is this program?
The tool was done by a community resident, Kevin Vandeveer, at my request. He's the same person who did it for us last summer.
On his computer or on our computer?
No,
Who
he
has
didn't do it on our
control of
computer.
the program?
I sent the 3 documents to him, and he generated it and then sent it back to me.
So you don't know what the parameters of the program are in terms of what it says it wants. Make it more folksy, make it more this, make it more pro-city. You don't know what the parameters are that he is using in the program.
That's true. What I do know is that when it came back, what we were listening for, I think I can speak on behalf of all of us, is whether we felt that it accurately reflected the documents that we started with. And my judgment, I won't speak for others, my judgment is that it absolutely does.
And with respect to that, I think in the first couple of...
So, Ann,
Yeah.
fair enough. I don't want to go too much deeper. I think we've dealt with this in pretty... Like I said, I'm happy to go back and have more conversation about this in the future. I think it'd be a fascinating conversation to talk about as a community. Where and how we think it's appropriate to use AI is a conversation that's going on all over the place.
Okay, I'll let you cut me off with respect to this, but notice that the extent of a back and forth which could create new theories and new ways of looking at things is cut off when that happens. Just
Fair
notice. I can move on to another thing, but I would rather have other people.
So would I. I think there's a question online last I saw. Mark, do you still have something you'd like to ask?
No, Ian said it all.
Okay. Are there others in the room who would like to raise questions before Ann continues? Okay, council members, I didn't mean to monopolize that. So if anybody else would like to weigh in on that, you're welcome to.
I would just add that I remember when the conversation was in the fall, the other podcast, I remember giving the feedback of they're being too light, it's too jokey, it's too kind of cheesy, and so then the next version was a little bit more factual based. It pulled more information from the documents rather than kind of making some whimsical jokes about our budget situation. So I do recall giving feedback and input on that, but I also definitely hear the concern around, rather having 2 people discuss it that are genuine and identified residents. So thank you.
And then you give the city imprimatur to it because it's on the city website.
Okay.
Go ahead. What's your next question?
No one else? Okay. I'd like, Lori stood up and said she'd like people to vote for something. I'd like people to vote against Article 7, that's the charter, for a lot of reasons. I went back and looked tonight at the October 6th meeting when all of this sort of kicked off and the mayor started speaking. And he said 2 reasons that he wanted for us to do this and do it at a rush level. And the first one was...
Wait. I didn't say I wanted to do it at a rush level.
Oh.
So
that you
if
wanted
you're going
to
to
do
quote
it-
me, let's
okay.
do it accurately.
Okay. What you said was that the debt limit that was set in the charter was likely to make it potentially impossible to do the bond work that you expected that Public Works would have to do do, I guess, the TIF work that you wanted to hopefully have done. And the second thing was that you wanted greater clarity about the mayor, the city manager, and the role of the council. And you then laid out a meeting schedule, which you defined, and I quote you exactly, as remarkably aggressive, a remarkably aggressive proposal. And then John, you asked for comments by council, and John Manette said it was definitely aggressive. And that is one of the and then there were comments by Buerling, Pam Lads, Charlie, myself, and Jennifer Hopkins about how concerns about how fast you expected this whole thing to get done. I'm saying it's still a problem, and that's one of the major reasons that I would ask the public to vote no on Article 7.
So if I could just respond, you're correct. I did say those things on that night. I also, in a later meeting, having done a deeper dive and had conversation with our city attorneys, actually amended the first part of that statement from October 6th and said that it was actually my judgment that the current charter does not preclude the possibility of trying to move ahead with a bond. So it's true that I said it, and as I went deeper into the issue, because we hadn't really started at all at that point, I changed my own conclusion. The second of those points, you're absolutely right, and I remain pretty committed to, which is that it's my judgment that the new charter that's being proposed is far more clear in the breakdown about what is the obligation and the responsibility and the authority of the mayor, the council, and the city manager. Go ahead. Oh, and, well, actually, one more thing. When I used the word aggressive, and I did, and I think it was an aggressive schedule, what I meant was that if we were to get it to legislature for consideration this term, there were a series of deadlines that would have to be met, any one of which, if we missed it, would stop it from happening. And actually, I'm pretty sure that I said that specifically. Like, if we hit any deadline and didn't make it, then the process would come to a close. And if the council chose not to take it further for any reason, the process would come to a close. So that was the meaning of the word aggressive when I used it that way. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I might as well talk about, since we have time, things that were taken out of the charter. Our old charter had a mechanism for dealing with deficit spending, who was to pay for the warrants or bills, who was to reimburse for the bills that had been signed when we were in a deficit situation. It also described how we were going to get out of that deficit specifically. And when we got to that section of the charter, was sort of reviewing that section of the charter, was sort of near the end, and I believe it's in chapter, if you do chapters, it was in chapter 8.
805.
805. And I had called it a cluster problem because that looked like AI had done it. It was sort of like, it put two ideas together of what you do if there's a deficit and what you do if you got an emergency situation on your hands. And it was a mess. And that was what had been presented to us. And we quickly tried to come up with new wording. Various people tried, and it was getting late, and people wanted to get this thing, some people wanted to get this thing passed, obviously. And finally somebody said, well, does the state cover it? And the answer was, yes, the state covers it. And they said, oh, get rid of that whole part of that whole section, and we'll leave it up to the state. But nobody on the council at that moment said, well, what the hell does the state, pardon my language, what the heck does the state say about emergencies and how to handle them? And what does the state say about deficits and how to handle that? And yet everybody within another half hour voted to pass this charter. And so I ask you, for instance, you said you'll answer questions. Andrew, what does the state statute say about how to handle deficits?
Wait. That's not an appropriate question. If you would like to direct a question to the council, you are welcome to do so.
I don't want your lawyer answering it. I want the people.
My lawyer is not in the room. The city's lawyer is not present.
A lawyer is in the room.
Yes, and he was the primary crafter. And so if Andrew wants to speak to it, that's fine. You are not directing questions to individual council members.
But you said individual council members would answer my question.
And they will if they desire. So my question is, do you have a question you are directing to the entire council? What's the question that you are directing to the council?
Sure, I'm asking you, what does the state statute say? And not to have John answer it.
Well, if you don't want an answer, that's fine. But the person who is most conversant with state statute is here at the table, and I suspect he's got an answer. So do you want an answer to your question or
He's
don't you?
looking through the statute, but you expect us on tomorrow to vote for.
And I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to direct the question to the council, feel free to do so. You
wanted
will
to
not
show
direct a
you.
question to an individual person and play a game of gotcha tonight. So if you want to ask a specific question, the person who feels most qualified at the table is welcome to answer, and so is anyone else. Is that a question you would like to have John address, and then anyone else who would like to as well?
No, my
Okay, then we're
point-
done. Move on to the next question.
Sure. The finance committee, is it a committee? I'm
Task force.
task force. The finance task force has been dealing with a number of issues recently. One of them was with getting a credit card, and that's been taking a very long time. And someone in the audience the other day raised the issue of why is it taking so long? So I asked, do we have a credit rating problem? Why are the companies not dying to have our credit?
So I can answer that question.
Okay.
The answer is we do not have a credit rating problem. Companies are not dying to knock on our door because we're a small city with, as a municipal standard goes, a very small account. The good news is that what we've been told was that it would break loose around the beginning of March, and in fact this week, Carrie and I were given notification that we've been assigned to a new person, and there's a timeline. I expect that we'll have information for the council to consider in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So they're moving on it, on the schedule they told us it would, and what they've told us repeatedly is this is a typical process that they go through with any municipality. Any other questions?
Sure. The AI conversation that took place at the very beginning of it started with something like the cash crisis in Newport is over. The cash crisis. It never really defined that. But what I find upsetting about it is the way the cash crisis is over is that we went into a serious amount of debt so that there would be an ability for there to be cash flow. But the cash crisis may be over for the city of Newport, you guys, as the city of Newport. But it passed that, when I talked about power shifting, this is cash shifting. The cash crisis shifted over to the citizens of Newport who now have to pay through taxes that
And I
money.
take offense to that because we are taxpayers just like you. So when you say you and I, no, it's all of us. So anything that you endure, we do as well.
So then the open, I get you,
So
I agree.
again, if the history has prevailed now, and we're taking the blame for it, right? We had to do what we had to do to make the cash flow problem resolve it, get resolved. And in doing so, it cost all of us. Do you think we all wanted to, yeah, that's what I want to do, I want to raise this, I want to go into debt? No, but it needed to be done because of prior council and prior everything. Prior management was mismanaged, and nobody did anything about it.
Not prior.
It most certainly was prior.
No, not prior everything. Prior to that, there were citizens of Newport were saying, this is wrong. What you're doing, prior councils and prior management, is wrong. So we did not sit there and say nothing.
So,
we spoke up.
And I'm really not interested in the argument tonight. If you have something to say it, and we're going to move on.
Okay. If you give me a moment with another question for somebody else, I'll be up for my next question.
If there are any other questions, I welcome them. Go ahead, Lori.
I'll just speak to, I've done a lot of research on the current charter and the new charter myself, personally. And I think the difficulty is that it is very difficult for an average person to read either one of the documents and know where to go to in state statute. I think that's part of the issue, is that you start with one place, Title 24, okay, and then you've got to go kind of feel your way through, okay, does this apply to which charter? Maybe it's Title 17, maybe it's something else, you know? And I think that's where the hope is that if this proposal passes tomorrow, that there will be an effort by the council, by the city, to do a little bit more digging and help the citizens understand the points in state statute where things are. That's the way I see a lot of the confusion coming.
Thank you.
So.
I did want to mention another thing about water and sewer, because a lot of people don't go to the water and sewer task force. And some issues were raised there about depreciation, and a request was made, I think actually in council eventually, for someone to establish how in a cash flow budget, which is the water and sewer budget, has and always has been, depreciation out of nowhere is, in all the years that we've had it, it's never been in it, but now it is. So it's one more cost for water and sewer. The lack of a reserve fund, we were told initially that we were going to have a 5% amount that was going to go into a cash reserve fund in water and sewer, and so that budget was created last year and 5% went in, but the fund was never created yet. And the state requires a reserve fund to be created by the people. We haven't had that happen in this series of articles that are before us. And so I'd like to know, and I had asked at the time, has anyone checked with an accountant to find out whether or not it is appropriate to put depreciation into the water and sewer funds budget? Because if it's not, then we shouldn't have to pay for it, and our rates shouldn't go up because of depreciation. And secondly, if we're paying for a capital fund, paying an extra I forget, maybe $200,000 this year to go into the reserve fund, I'd like it to be a reserve fund set up under the state statute so that I'd know that the citizens set it up, and in order to take that money out of there and use it for any other purpose other than what the capital fund says it's to be used for, you've got to get permission from the citizens. And recently,
So Ann,
at the finance, if I can finish, recently at the finance meeting, the head of the finance meeting came forward with what VLTC says should be done to create a reserve fund for capital expenses. And lo and behold, she had the same rules and the same statute that we have been requesting, or some people in water and sewer have been requesting all along. I'd like to know what the status of depreciation is and the status of reserve funds being set up.
so since we've had both these conversations in council meetings in recent memory, I'll just reiterate what we've already said. We did, in fact, have an extensive discussion with Chip Stearns about the question of depreciation, and 1 week ago, you asked that we further consider that with some kind of a specialized attorney. I have not yet taken action to do that. I heard your request, and we will follow up. But we have good, in my judgment, and I think the council would concur because we all accepted the judgment, we have asked a person who has extensive experience in this area and been told that this is standard practice, the explanation that we were given. So we have in fact taken those questions quite seriously. Second, regarding the cash reserve has been established as a fund within the general fund of the city that we receive a report on. Every time we get a financial report, we see a balance sheet that will show how much is in that cash reserve. There is the judgment of our attorneys with SP&F, the city attorneys, is that it is not a requirement that that be created as a separate fund. I know that you disagree with that opinion, but I will tell you that we've had that conversation with our city attorneys and been assured that this is an appropriate practice. And I don't know, Carter, if you'd like to add anything else, you're welcome to.
Yeah, if you go back and watch the financial task force recording, I bolded this section which follows the VLCT state statute that says elected officials can establish a reserve fund. So the document is public, the recording is online. It very much clears and it spells out exactly how the council went about this. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions you'd like to ask? Well, hold on, I've got one in the back. Jennifer?
Just to maybe add a little clarity to the depreciation situation. My recollection is that the state statutes for water and sewer and the municipal statutes speak directly to what you can and cannot include in your rate setting procedure. And unless they've revised them, and I know there was a revision that came in, I don't know if it was this past summer or the summer before, and I might not be up to date with the revision, but you could deduct the principal and interest of your debt service. If you can deduct, and only that, right? And so if you are deducting the principal and interest of your debt service, to also to add in depreciation would be a double dip. So I think the answers are in the state statutes, and I don't know if Chip is up to date on those.
He is,
Okay.
and the calculation was done with all three of those numbers in
Okay.
play with one another.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, Lizzie.
Hi Rick, Lizzie Alexander, Newport resident. I have kind of a broad question. I'm just looking at the appropriation requests on page 82, and I'm struck that all of our appropriations across the past 3 years to local agencies, nonprofits serving our community, all very important organizations in my opinion, they're the exact same over the past 3 years, which how can that be? Costs tend to go up, and so I guess that's a general question about how it is that these are the same. Is it that our contributions stay constant, and then these agencies, just kind of like adapt and make do with whatever piece of the pie they have? That's it.
Yeah, that was something the financial task force looked at. In general, a nonprofit will request to the city to be put on the ballot, and to meet that threshold, they have to get a certain amount of signatures with the request clearly stated on the petition as they get signatures. We have officially adopted a policy, and it was also past practice for the last number of years, that if the level of request stays the same, you just, once you meet that threshold for 1 year, the next year you can just email Jim, hey, this is so-and-so with so-and-so, we'd like to be on the ballot again. And he says, great, you got that petition signed, it was approved last year by the voters, so therefore we can just simply copy paste and put it on this year's ballot. So that's why it stays the same. If a nonprofit or appropriations wants to increase their request, they have to go back through that petition process. So I believe that that's probably why that stays the same, is because it is quite a bit of legwork to get on the petition in the first place. So if they wanted a request, and I think they're also considering the ask of the citizens with that dollar amount. But yeah, does that kind of, it's like the why or how though.
The burden on the agency is much less if it stays the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Other questions in the community? Anybody online? Ann, any final questions you have?
No, thank you.
Council members, this is our last chance to weigh in. I'll just go down through and ask if you'd like to say anything about any of the items that are on the ballot tomorrow. This is your opportunity to do so. Jim, I'll start with you. Actually,
No, I don't have any.
you don't get an opinion about this. I meant to say Kevin, go ahead.
I'll think about it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Nothing.
Okay. John?
I'll pass.
Okay.
I'll pass, thank you.
Carter?
I don't know, I'm just really proud of the work that was put into getting to that budget number. I know it's not what people were wanting or anticipating, but it is accurate and it will maintain services that the city has provided. So I hope people consider that. And yeah, and also the work on the charter, and also just continuing around the appropriations, all of these other service providers that are in our community. So I just really would like people to come out and vote, and I think those in this room probably will. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add tonight either. So I'm going to move us on to item number 7 that's listed as 7 on the agenda. Oh, did I miss somebody?
Mark, just
Go ahead, Mark. Did you want to speak?
I just want to know if the clerk's office is going to be open tomorrow so I can pay my water bill.
Yeah, we'll take your money anytime, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. Service with a smile. All right, next item is task force reports. John, you want to check in on anything about water and sewer?
No update from last time. Our next meeting is Thursday night at 6:30.
And that's been posted, right, Carrie, online, along with the agenda. So if anybody's interested, it's on the calendar page on the website. Okay. Carter?
No, we have not met since the last meeting, but we are on Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. I will get an agenda to Carrie soon and it will be up on the website, but 8 a.m. online, it's posted.
Thank you. I don't think, Kevin, we've got anything to add about the housing questions. I'll just say that there is a training planned in this room at 10 a.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. on Sunday that I suspect will go about 5 to 6 hours each day for any volunteers who would like to sign up to come and be part of the team of volunteers who will be staffing the shelter from 5 to 11 p.m. We're going to do a far more extensive training than we did the first round. We are on hiatus at the moment. We closed a week ago, a decision that none of us wanted to make, and I think all of us agreed we needed to make to try and get everybody on the same page around basic security and safety protocols and to recruit more volunteers because we were exhausting the handful of volunteers we had. So if you have any interest at all in being a part of that volunteer team, I would say there are a few of us in the room who have been doing it on a regular or semi-regular basis, and I think it's gratifying and interesting, and it's not particularly onerous. So if anybody's interested, please see me after and I can give you information about the training that everyone will be required to go through on Saturday and Sunday in order to be a part of that volunteer team. Or if you can't make it for all or part of that, there will be videos of that training available that you can take and then do a short kind of quiz to make sure that you've actually watched them before we bring you in as a volunteer.
Do you have to be at both days, Saturday and Sunday?
You have to be there. You don't have to be there for any of it as long as you then watch the video after. So if you need to be flexible next weekend to try and do parts of it and not others, we'll flex to make that work with you. But please do let us know. Pam Lads is here. You can let her know, or myself, or maybe it's just the two of us tonight in the room. But please let us know because we're trying to get a list. We need at least 15, and I'd like to see 25 people here for that training on Saturday and Sunday. We'll provide a lunch and some snacks to make it worth your while. And then the last one, Andrew, anything else to report on fire department?
No updates at this point.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing else on those topics, let's move on to public comment. Do we have anybody signed up to speak in addition to what we've already heard tonight?
I've already spoken, thank you.
Nobody else?
No.
Okay. Anybody online who didn't have a chance to sign up, have a comment you'd like to make other than what we've already discussed tonight on water and sewer? I'm sorry, ballot issues. Not that my head's swimming.
So you guys are voting just on a charter for tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow is the budget, the charter, and all the appropriations, Mark.
Okay.
Okay? If anybody needs it, the books are available out here that have all of the annual report stuff in them. So a lot of people worked really hard to pull that book together, so please take a copy. Okay, new business. Carter?
May
Well,
I ask a question?
Of course.
Stacy Charbonneau, Newport resident. I just noticed that on Article 3, what you're asking for to be approved is 9.3 million, but your total income, your revenues total 9.5 million. why. And then there's no total on your expenses, so.
Which page are you on, Stacy?
So I'm on page 3 and then I'm on page 17. It just confuses me.
Yeah, I can see why. Hold on.
I think it's the appropriations.
Sorry,
Is it
Carrie?
the appropriations?
It's the difference between appropriations.
Yeah, it is. We're gonna talk about that already.
So Jim, can you say more about that? How?
Yeah, the difference in the appropriations are a total of 169,000, Carrie, and I think if you add it, that's just about where the difference is.
Does that make sense, Stacy? I see a quizzical look on your brow.
I am, wouldn't the appropriations be added to the 9.5 though? Million, because that's your revenue.
Sorry, which page are you on for the
I'm
revenue?
on page 17. Wouldn't that 169,000 get added to the 9.5 million?
No, it's an expense.
Yeah, it's an expense.
Because you're saying
Correct.
9.3, but you don't give me a total.
Yes,
of
if
your
you subtract
expenses.
the total income that's being proposed. Sorry, if you take the, I want to make sure I say this carefully, and then people can correct me, because it's always hard when you're trying to figure it out on the fly. But if you take the grand total income and subtract the appropriations portion, the appropriations expense, what you should end up with is the 9.3 something total expense of city operations, general fund operations.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
if you
you're,
look at page 25, you'll see the appropriations listed on the expense side. And when they're added in, it comes to that 9,511,000
okay,
figure that appears on 17.
okay, so
We
your
set a
budget
tax rate for
includes,
appropriations.
it's already included the appropriations. And
Correct. Jim, I'm sorry, did you want to add something?
I said, we set a tax rate for appropriations, just like we do with the general fund.
You do, okay.
Carrie, anything you want to add to that? Okay, good question. Any other questions about this before we go on? Okay, were we up to new business?
Yes.
Carter, new business?
No, no, thank you. That's it.
No, thank you.
Kevin? Jim?
No.
Okay. Old business, I want to start us out here. I want to say, first of all, a word of gratitude to the whole council. I wish I could have, I should have probably tried to tabulate the number of hours that this council has put in over the last year. It is exceptional. I hope that it will not be the same this coming year. But we took on huge challenges, and people put in phenomenal amounts of time this year in all kinds of projects. I don't know how to begin to list them, but I have tried to list most of them, or many of them, in the mayor's letter in the annual report. I'm unbearably proud of the work that we've done and the good spirit that we brought to the process. And I'm really also really grateful to members of the community who have engaged in a lot of those conversations with us in active ways to help us to solve really intractable problems. The members of each of the four task forces, but also folks who came to some of those task force meetings. So I'm grateful to everyone for all the work they did. And that leads me into just creating an opportunity to say to Kevin Charbonneau, who served as our president for the last year and is completing 8 years of service on the council, how grateful I am, and I think we all are, for your service. So I'd like to just create a space for people to speak to that if they'd like. You can pass this down to Kevin, which is a card that we each have written some notes on from the council members. And then Kevin, after you've heard people, anybody who wants to speak, we'll invite you to speak if you'd like to, as you finish up your last meeting with us.
One more meeting to go.
Tomorrow night you have to come to the meeting, don't you? But who's counting?
Jim said he's not officially relieved until 8 o'clock.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, Kevin, you named, I don't know when it was, early in January, I think, you named the things that you felt like you had most been committed to. if I remember correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, they were the water tower, which I think you saw from its moment of inception through completion, is that right? So the water tower, the review, much more careful review and approval of a personnel policy this year. The new charter was on your list. Was there, what, am I forgetting any that were on your list?
Getting through COVID.
Surviving COVID.
Surviving COVID. Our departments function admirably. We had rock solid department heads. They are able to get through it. Council was meeting remotely at best. We got through that. The community really rebounded. We saw picnic tables outside of Hoagie's. Just by happenstance, the streets were opened up to four-wheelers and ATVs, and it really brought people out to businesses. You know, going out to eat is a lot more fun in a side-by-side than a truck or car. Yeah, there's, I'm trying to think of the things. Just a lot of things. This past year, though, was really remarkable. I couldn't help but think, the new thing for first aid now, people are carrying tourniquets to stop the bleed. Now, back when, Rick, when we first learned first aid, tourniquets were bad. You didn't use them because it was going to damage. You know, you might lose an arm, you might lose something else. Well, fast forward to this year, Newport was hemorrhaging money. We had to stop, and that is painful. We all are paying more taxes. It had to be done. We had to stop the bleed. And, you know, it's really remarkable. I enjoyed this past year working with you. But you're right, it was a sprint. There was no downtime. And I doubt there will be any future downtime. But it's very productive, and thank you. Thank you. I think the city is headed in a good direction. I think the articles are great. Hopefully they all pass, especially Article 7. It will work for the city, and great things are going to happen. Thank you.
It's well spoken. Thank you. Any other comments, council members?
I would just, I don't know, this was my first year on council, and I have greatly appreciated your input. You have a great way of selecting just the right words, but they also continuously reflect your deep ties in the community. Like, your perspective that you bring comes from not only your past work, but also your understanding of the community's history, and also you balance that very well with where you can see the city headed. So, thank you. We'll definitely be missed.
Thank you.
Yeah, no question about that. I can only reiterate that.
I want to thank you more for just what you've done for the city. I want to thank you for your being a public servant for 30 plus years. Everything from the state police to the school to, you know, serving on the committee here. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you for the time that you spent away from family and friends and dedicated to the city. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
You know, Lizzie, I just want you to know I was going to say this before I realized you were going to be in the room tonight. But I think one of your most immediate legacies is going to be the fact that you recruited Lizzie Alexander to serve on the City Manager Search Committee, and I am thrilled that you managed to pull that off. So thank you very much.
I expect that before too long, she'll be in one of these seats.
I hope you're right.
On that, I will just say that Kevin, who I have gotten to work with and enjoy working with at North Country, was very persistent, and on more than one occasion when he discovered I had recently moved to Newport, was like, I said, Kevin, I don't know if this is the right time for you to be getting involved. And he was like, Lizzie, I think this is the perfect time. He wasn't listening. So
Yeah, and I see Sharon's in the room tonight too, who of course is the candidate for the seat that Kevin is stepping down from. And Sharon made it really clear to me the first time I went and spoke with her about that possibility, that she had zero interest in running for that seat if you were not stepping back. So I think there's huge respect for you in this room and in this community, Kevin, and we're really grateful.
Thank you.
Any other comments folks would like to make? Tom?
Kevin, I'd like to personally thank you for your 8 years of service for the city. These are certainly tough and sometimes, a lot of times, thankless jobs that you all do. And I commend you for sticking it out as long as you did, and I thank you.
I'd like to say I've worked with a lot of council members over the last 28 years, and Kevin's always here. He never gives up. And it's going to show you what kind of fellow he is.
Thank you, Jim. Jennifer?
And I think as a general member of the public, I'll thank Kevin for his dedication, his great service, and personally to say, I will miss our after-council meeting talks.
Really? Who's going to have to sit with Jennifer for an hour and then?
Sometimes two.
There's quite a few people, Jennifer Bueller, Edward Hopkins, James, Andrew, yourself, and Pam Lyons, I'm always coming through. She has to pick up and move stuff, and somebody's always down there to help me load up the truck and get going. So I thank you all.
At least we do.
Our pleasure.
Probably, Stacy, we ought to at least mention the fact that it probably took some support that we didn't see behind the scenes. So thank you as well for 8 years.
He enjoyed it very much. He really did, and I was surprised when he said it was done. And life changes, and but he's enjoyed it very much. So.
I hope you demanded a trip to Hawaii or something. Okay, any other comments, appreciations? Go ahead, Jennifer.
I just want to thank you, Kevin. You answered the phone. A lot of people didn't. And when I think about your leadership style, I kind of think about the Mississippi River. You know, the Mississippi River is really calm on its surface, but you get down there a few feet and there's some raging currents that will suck you under and kill you. And, you know, that's kind of how you are. Like, you're tenacious and you don't give up and you root out the truth. And on the surface, calm as a cucumber, really soft-spoken, but, you know, at the core, you're as tough as nails. And I very much respect that, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. So, don't be a stranger.
Thank you.
That is Kevin's true demeanor, is he stays very calm under pressure. And I think that's something he learned with the state, and it's just resonated with him. That's just who he is.
I'll just say that Kevin and I didn't always see eye to eye on things, but it's more than that. I'm grateful to anyone who will serve. And our kids grew up together, and they always had a safe place to go. And And it's, you know, you can continue the conversations even when you don't always agree.
All right, we had enough of the Kevin show here. Okay.
There's one guy.
Go ahead, Mark.
Kevin, this is Mark Scola. I want to say I appreciated you here at City Councilor, and I'm glad you were here for a year and a half that I've been coming, and you did a good job. Now, good luck to you in your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, next item on the agenda is to set 2 meetings. One is tomorrow night, scheduled for 8 p.m. downstairs in the gymnasium, where we will meet briefly to take action to seat new council members or returning council members. Is there anything else on that agenda, Jim, tomorrow night besides that?
No, basically that's it.
Okay, so you all are welcome tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, if you like. And I'll just say along those lines, folks who haven't been regular attenders in these meetings are absolutely welcome at any meeting. And if you'd like to be more involved there are all kinds of ways to do that. So please reach out, let me know, or a council member know, and we'll find ways to get you more connected. So thank you for coming tonight. The second special is another special meeting that we're calling for Monday night, March 9th, a week from tonight at 6 p.m. The purpose of which will be primarily to hear a financial report from Chip Stearns and to take action to sign the legal paperwork for the Vermont Bond Bank note that we've been working hard to get lined up to be it's the 25-year commitment on the East Side Water Tower payment. So we're in line of, the attorneys assure me that we will have that paperwork done in time for that meeting. So Monday night, March 9th, 6 p.m. here in the council room. Do I have a motion to set those 2 meetings?
So moved.
A motion and a second?
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Kevin, you are chomping at the bit to do what you do.
I make motion we adjourn.
There it is. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Carter. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you for a good evening. Please vote tomorrow.